There are 31 new cases of COVID-19 in Saskatchewan and no new deaths. The Northwest has 6 new cases, all of which are in the immediate Lloydminster area. 435 cases are active province-wide, with 57 in our zone. 69 people are in hospital, with 4 of those in the Northwest. More than 1.1 million vaccine doses have been administered in the province, over 70,000 of those were in our zone. Holy Rosary High School celebrated an exciting day yesterday as they held a sod turning marking the start of the work on the new expansion coming to the high school. That swift movement of a shovel marked the beginning of the construction being done at Holy Rosary. The event, attended by members of the community and local government officials, celebrated the start of the expansion to come to the high school.
Today is a big moment for this community. I suspect the months ahead will fly by as you watch the progress with your own eyes. Maybe not as fast as you'd like, but it will move. Before you know it, Lloydminster will have a newly renovated and spacious building.
The school is already above their current capacity, so in order to fit the students currently in the younger grades around the division, this expansion is vital. The school board worked with both provincial governments in order to secure the $10 million needed for the construction.
Our chair, Paula Scott, was able to make that case very clearly to the Minister of Education and Colleen Young, who helped us with that as well. It was a simple matter of numbers, to accommodate the innovation and the number of students that we already have. We needed to expand upon Holy Rosary, and we feel like we're able to do that in a really exciting way.
The expansion will not only help students in the Lloydminster Catholic School Division, but also the local economy, as many jobs will be created to complete the work done on the school.
I think the local economic impact will be huge. We're going to see construction jobs in the city. Some of them will be local subcontractors. We've got Bar Engineering working on the project as an engineer. We're going to see various employees being hired locally by contractors and subcontractors. They'll look locally because they get the best value from a local subcontractor.
With the amount of people in attendance, the school division is grateful, knowing that they have the support of Lloydminster residents, community partners, and more to complete this expansion.
Lloydminster is a city where it's so challenging to make two governments or to bring two governments together around a project. But when you've brought a community like Lloydminster together around a project, you have 2 times the people behind it. And that's extraordinary. It's such a feeling of support to those of us who lead schools and school divisions in this city.
LCSD is hoping to open the new wing by the fall of 2022. The Victuba Community Theatre is preparing to welcome back live shows after a long break due to COVID-19. Jace Mackey has more on their preparations and their new fundraiser.
I'm joined today by the treasurer of the Victuba Theatre. We're going to be talking a bit about live music coming back to Victuba, but also a new fundraiser that's going on. So Gwen, can you just tell me a little bit about the fundraiser that's going on?
So we are selling some items for our Decadence and Dessert fundraiser. We're featuring cheesecake tarts, cherry, lemon, blueberry, as well as cinnamon rolls, a very nice cheese box, and a charcuterie box. And all of the items are available to purchase on our website at victubatheatre.ca, or you can call us at 780-872-7400.
Now, the money from this is going to be going towards the multipurpose space expansion, and there's been some fundraisers for this in the past. How are things going when it comes to raising money for that expansion?
Fundraising is going well. We do have a target this year. We have a matching donor. And to maximize on the amount that the donor will give us, we need another $28,000 by October. So we're working really, really hard on that last little bit. And we really need the expansion right now. Like last week would have been great, to have that space. We really need that space. It's going to be very helpful for our dance clients, for theater rehearsals, for VIP receptions with artists, and for smaller concert events. And like I said, if we had had that space last week, it would have been fantastic.
Now, also live music has returned to the Victuba earlier in June. How exciting was that?
Well, it's it's a little bit of an adjustment, really. But it's nice to have it back in the building, and we're excited when the restrictions can be lifted completely. People are still, adjusting to wearing masks in the theater, and yeah. So this summer we are coming back with some concerts, and we're also having an outdoor stage on August 24th to 26th. So we're looking forward to that.
And for people who are interested in finding out more about what's upcoming at Victuba, is it that available on their website?
We're going to have that up and running in about a week. We're just working on the final details, working on the seating map, because there will be a little bit of spacing still for the month of August. Even though restrictions can be completely lifted, we are going to have a little bit of spacing for the month of August.
Is there going to be any other restriction when people come back in, or are you guys kind of still working through that?
We're still working through that. We also have to work with Lakeland College, and so we're waiting for them to finalize their details. So there might be masking, or it might just be recommended. So that's still being worked through.
So after this long stretch of, not being able to put on anything, what's it going to be like to have, some of those big summer, events happening again at Victuba?
It's going to be wonderful. It's going to be wonderful. We can't wait. And we're hearing that, well, even with the dance events that we were able to host last week, we were able to host some dance events last week. It was an emotional experience for people coming back. So we are looking forward to it.
All right, well, I'm looking forward to it as well. I'm very excited for this, and it's nice to see, restrictions easing and life getting back to normal. So, and again, we're going to be talking about that. We talked about that fundraiser. So for people who are interested in taking part, how can they do that again?
They can visit our website at victubatheater.ca, or they can call us 780-872-7400.
Awesome, Gwen. Especially with that matching donor, we want to make sure that people are able to get their donations in before that October deadline to get the most out of that matching donations.
We would really appreciate that.
Now our Connor Chan will take a look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. As we take a look now, lots of heat continuing on. That's going to be the case, at least until Saturday, where we are expecting some showers into the weekend, which will be a nice change of pace and something that we will be welcoming at this point. Normally, we sometimes complain about the rain, but this time we were going to be welcoming it back, as we are going to be in that heat warning, as I mentioned, as we have been talking about all week and also last week as well. And we're going to continue to be into that well into probably Saturday or Sunday. But right now, 33 degrees is what we're sitting at right now. Lots of clear skies and lots of warm temperatures, close to the 40 degrees mark in some parts of Alberta and Saskatchewan. 37 in Edmonton right now, with 35 in Cold Lake, Bonnyville, and in Lac La Biche. 35 for Provost and Macklin. 34 degrees in North Battleford right now, with 33 in Maidstone, and St. Walburg with 36 also in Green Lake and in Isle of Cross. We talked about Lytton, BC yesterday, where they had records in the 47 degree mark was their record. They shattered that today with 49.7, so you round that up, 50 degrees Celsius. That is just insane when you think about it, but we are going to be nowhere close to that. But we are still going to be fairly hot with that sun and little to no cloud coverage there. But looking overnight, North Battleford, 16 degrees. It's going to drop a little bit there, but it's going to go back to 35 degrees throughout the day tomorrow with some clear skies for us here for Cold Lake. 22 overnight with some clear skies as well, and 34 will be the high tomorrow. And we'll see that 34 degrees ourselves here in Lloydminster, as we are expecting lots more sun. It's Friday that's going to be the hottest day there. We are going to break a record though for tomorrow, as normally on Canada Day, our warmest day was in round numbers 28 degrees, so we'll definitely be breaking that. Same on Friday. We could get as high as 38 degrees there on that Friday, and then Saturday, where we will see some cloud coverage and possibly some rain carrying over into Sunday as well. We'll be at that high of 27, so that'll be the end of the 30 degree mark for at least until right now. That is a look at your weather forecast. We'll have more primetime local news coming up after the break.
Welcome back. The province of Saskatchewan and SaskTel have announced a $50 million investment to improve rural internet connectivity. We sit down with the chair of the Rural Internet Connectivity Task Force to talk about the investment. Jillian Code has more.
I'm joined by Jeremy Welter. He is the chair of the Rural Connectivity Task Force with the Agricultural Producers Association of Saskatchewan. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course, I'm glad I was able to do it. Thank you very much for contacting us.
You guys formed the task force for rural connectivity in September of 2020, and why was it so important to do so?
It was important because, I mean, at our base, we are a grassroots organization, and this is what we were being told by our members. You know, we were continually hearing, and I say anecdotal stories, but I mean they were actual accounts of the difficulties that a lot of our members and the people that they represent were facing with a lack of proper connectivity. You know.
Yeah, exactly. And you're saying like internet service is really essential now. Like just take COVID, for example. It's where you get all the information for it. It's how you can book your vaccines. So it's not just like a luxury service like people thought it was in the past. It's really become very prominent and very important for people to have.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is absolutely an essential service. And I mean, frankly, it has been and it was an essential service for you know, I would say at least the last 5 to 10 years, but certainly you're right. COVID has obviously made the situation much more prominent, or the lack of the lack of proper and accessible affordable connectivity. COVID has certainly exacerbated the situation, made it much more prominent in everyone's mind. Everyone, you know, suddenly came to realize how far behind we actually were. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And so your task force came up with 43 recommendations. Will this investment help achieve a lot of those recommendations, or is there still work to go?
You know, certainly this is definitely a step in the right direction. You know, I mean, any wired connectivity, any wireline connectivity with fiber optics is always going to be a good thing. You know, the ideal situation is that every town and ideally I live on a farm, so I'll say every farm too will have the fiber optic connectivity. But I recognize, you know, that may not be the most economic and reasonable way to reach the current goal that the federal government has set, but also, you know, any future goals. I think it's very important to recognize that 50-10 sounds really good right now if you've got it. But, you know, in the same sense that, say, 10-1 maybe sounded good 10 years ago. You know, as the internet continues to evolve and change, the speeds required to receive, proper connectivity, high-speed connectivity, that will also change. So, I think this is definitely a step in the right direction. I think it's very encouraging to see that SaskTel has made this announcement. I say, as always, the devil is in the details. So we're certainly going to, continue watching to see, I guess what their selection process is for further communities and how the money is spent, obviously. The other thing that I found really encouraging with this announcement was also the second part of the announcement, where they have said that they recognize they're not going to be, and they can't be, the be all and end all for connectivity in Saskatchewan. So they're looking for possible partnership avenues with other companies that are also interested in installing fiber optic cables. You know, again, like I said before, the devil is in the details, but it is really encouraging to see that this is something they're looking at. You know, when Saskatchewan was connected to the phone service, at that point, SaskTel didn't really exist. It was all done locally through local, telephone connection companies, and those companies all got together and formed SaskTel. So, if we look at the way Saskatchewan was wired up, the way Saskatchewan was connected through the telephone service, I think it's a good example to show what works for internet connectivity.
Well, thank you so much for joining me this morning,
taking the time
to sit down with me. I very much appreciate it.
Now we'll take a look at your egg prices. Logan Gorst and BJ Carey will look to continue their success on the track this weekend as the CPCA gets set for their second event in Onion Lake. Evan Kenny has more ahead of the weekend.
Well, I'm pleased to be joined now by Greg Buchanan as the CPCA will be back on the track tonight, Wednesday night at Onion Lake. Greg, thanks for taking this time and joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Now, like I said, going back onto the track, second weekend of action for the 2021 season here, Bucky. And I mean, obviously, they have that week now under their belt, kicking off some of the rust. Do you think we will be seeing different from these drivers and horses on the track here?
Yeah, I think the guys that had great weekends in Palmaker, BJ Carey, Ryan Baptiste, Logan Gorse, and I did Danny Ringett, you'll see them continue to do what they were doing. But you're going to see bounce backs from a few. You're going to see a bounce back from, the 2019 CPCA champion, Todd Baptiste, who had a rare 4 days that you haven't really seen Todd have for a few years. And that is around 20th in the show standings. And that's a rarity for Todd. So look for him to bounce back. You look at maybe a Luke Tournier, who's a guy that came back from the WPCA to the CPCA, a two-time Calgary Stampede champion. Look for him to bounce back as well. Jamie Labicane had a couple of barrels go down for him, as well as in Poundmaker. Look for him for a bounce back. So there's a lot of drivers with bounce backs. And also, we mentioned last time we talked about the 6 rookie drivers, 7 in all in the CPCA this year. So almost to a point where there's nerves, there's excitement, and you almost want to get that first show out of the way and go forward. So now they have that first show out of their way. Now let's get to business, and they got 5 days in Onion Lake beginning tonight.
And Greg, maybe even just adding to those nerves, obviously a 2020 season where, very limited time on that track, just adding to build on to some of those nerves there. Now, obviously right now it is a scorcher out. It's going to be a humid one, and just continuing on throughout the week and into the weekend. Bucky, do you think this will affect the races at all here coming forward?
No, I don't think it will. It probably affects more the drivers and the outriders. The horses are very well cared for. They have electrolytes. They'll get into them before the races. After the races, they get cooled down. They'll have fans. They'll be in the shade, and they're really well cared for before, after the races, and even during the races as they're waiting to get on the track. So these horses, some of them you have to realize aren't from this area. Many of them aren't. Many of them come from Turf Paradise, which is a track in Phoenix, Arizona, and they come off tracks in Florida. They come off tracks in California, in places where this is pretty normal. So they're going to come here, and I know some of them have been here for a number of years, so it would be a bit of an adjustment. But some of them were born and raised in areas just as hot or hotter. So.
Now, Bucky, final question here moving forward before the 5-day event coming up. Who do you like for chances at winning this upcoming weekend?
Well, you look, like I mentioned, the guy off the top is for a bounce back. Look for a Todd Baptiste to, they're going to have a dash. So they're going to have 5 days of racing. The top 4 after Saturday night will be in that dash for cash on Sunday in Onion Lake. And I like Todd Baptiste to be in that dash because he'll have a bounce back. But you can't count out the guys that looked really good. And that's BJ Carey and Logan Gorse. Look for them to, not skip a beat to what they did in Poundmaker. Look for BJ to be there. Look for Logan to be there. And you could have 2 Baptiste brothers battling for a top 4 spot there. And Danny Ringett is another driver that we didn't talk about, but he cracked that top 4 in Poundmaker. He'll be in that final dash in Onion Lake as the top 4 drivers in the association. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be interesting to see how the heat and, may play a factor, may not play a factor, but we go from 3 wagons on the track in Poundmaker to a 4-wagon setup here, a 4-barrel setup here. So a bigger track, a lot more room on the track, and it'll be interesting to see. But I like to see Todd Baptiste with a bounce back here this week at Onion Lake.
Bucky, I'm going to go with a guy who you also said in the bounce back category in Jamie Labicane. Obviously, we all know he's a fantastic driver, finishing just outside of the dash at the CPCA championship in 2019. And last weekend, he had some good running times, but like you said, got into a little bit of penalty troubles. So I wouldn't be surprised to see, him back in that dash coming forward this weekend. Bucky, should be a very exciting weekend. 5 days of excitement coming up here in Onion Lake. Thanks for taking this time and joining me.
Thanks a lot, Evan.
Now our Connor Chan will take another look at your weather forecast.
All right, thanks very much, Jasmine. Yes, the heat dome is going to continue to stay around for a while. I know we've been saying this since Monday, but that's just how it is, and that's how it's going to be for at least the next little while here until we get to the weekend, where we are expecting a little bit of showers, but we'll show that in the 7-day forecast a little bit later on. But looking out west right now, lots of temperatures very close to 40 degrees, including in Jasper. We see 37s in Edmonton, Edson, and in Whitecourt, 36 in Athabasca right now, 34 right now for Saskatoon and in North Battleford, along with 36 degrees up in Meadow Lake and 35 for Cold Lake. Looking up to northern Saskatchewan, also very warm today. Normally we see temperatures that are kind of in those lower 20s as well as, or the high 20s, low 30s. Now we're seeing that in those high to mid 30s in areas like LaLoche, Buffalo Narrows at 36 degrees, 38 in Stony Rapids, and 24 for Wollaston Lake, which is a little bit warmer than what we saw earlier into the week. 40 degrees at Fort McMurray. They did break the 40-degree barrier there, so they are very, very hot up in northern Alberta. 38 in Slave Lake, 36 for Peace River, and then 37 in Fort Chipeway. Now looking to southern Alberta, also seeing some 37s in Medicine Hat. We see there in Banff as well, 35 for Lethbridge, and in Calgary. Coronation also sitting at 36 degrees, a little bit in the lower 30s in southern Saskatchewan, as we see 33 in Swift Current, 32 in Moose Jaw, and 31 in Regina, with Kindersley one of the warmer spots in southern Saskatchewan at 35 degrees. Now, as we take a look to the rest of the country here, we're starting to see a lot more cloud coverage coming up. Some cooler temperatures could mean some storms as we start to see some lower pressure making its way out to eastern Canada there. So that's why we're seeing a lot of that cloud coverage right now out in those in Quebec and Nova Scotia and Newfoundland as well. And as we look out to Vancouver, also sitting at 23 degrees, and as well as most of BC, of course, sitting in that heat dome continuing on. As we saw, as I mentioned earlier, Lytton broke its own record from yesterday, sitting at 49.8 degrees. Rounded up to 50 degrees. It is very hot out there on the west coast there today for sure. As we look ahead to tomorrow, 34 is our expected daytime high, and we'll see a little bit of 34s and 35s for the area here. So as we get ready for Canada Day celebrations in the city tomorrow, so 34 for Lloydminster, Marwayne, St. Paul, and Cold Lake, 35 for Bonnyville and Lac La Biche, 36 degrees in Edmonton, as well as we'll see that also in North Battleford and Maidstone with 34 and 35. So here's a look at the next 7 days here. We are going to get a little bit cooler on that Saturday, Sunday, but Friday we could get as high as 38 degrees, one of the warmer days of the week here. But moving on into the week here, we're going to start to cool down a little bit here. Lots of cloud coverage, much needed there. We could see a little bit of rain on top of that for Sunday with the chance of some showers, but it's the cloud coverage will probably be welcoming there, as we haven't seen that for a long time, and we probably won't see that at least up until Saturday or Sunday. But 27 degrees will be the high for Wednesday. We have been well above our averages for both our daytime highs and our daytime lows so far this week. That's a look at your 7-day forecast. We'll have more primetime local news after the break.
We are back again with Stephanie Dobson this week. Stephanie is a local lawyer and mediator with Hank Divorce Law and Mediation here in Lloydminster. It's another episode of Healthy, Thriving Families in Two Homes. Now, Stephanie, last week we talked a little bit about the grandparents' rights and how they can help out when going through, their children are going through separation and divorce. Today we want to get into that a little bit more. And we want to talk about some of the really in-depth involvement with grandparents when it comes to the contentious issues, especially if there is a very tough separation and divorce happening. So the first thing is, what happens, Stephanie, if one of the parents wants to try and keep a grandparent out of the process, or it's just not going well? Do grandparents still have the rights to spend the time with their grandchildren?
You know, this is a very common question that I get when grandparents have been cut off from seeing their grandchildren. It's a very sad situation, of course, because for children, the more love that goes around, the better. But in some circumstances, grandparents may apply to the court for court-ordered time with their grandchildren if they're being cut off from the parents. Now, the rules for making these applications are different whether you're in Alberta or Saskatchewan. And of course, for our viewers, we're talking about these two provinces. There's some situations where a grandparent is automatically entitled to make a court application to see their grandchildren. And there's other times where a grandparent may need to ask for special permission to see their grandchildren. to make that court application. But ultimately, provided that the court is willing to hear an application from the grandparents to see their grandchildren, it's the best interest of the children, and we've talked about that in other episodes, that is going to reign supreme. So a court application, we have to keep in mind, though, to demand time by grandparents as to their grandchildren is probably not going to further build the relationship to repairing that relationship between grandparents, grandchildren, and the adult children. And so, grandchildren can often, when they're in that push-pull situation, can really feel that strained relationship, and it ends up having them be in a really toxic environment. So although grandparents can apply for that court-ordered time, it can really cause that dampening of that relationship going forward.
Stephanie, in a lot of our conversations, we've talked about mediation as an option. Is that an option for grandparents as well?
Well, I do have, absolutely it is. Mediation is for all sorts of different disputes, separation and divorce. A few episodes ago, we talked about pets in relation to mediation, and it's also available for grandparents, of course. So when grandparents come to me and say that they've been cut off from their grandchildren, the first thing that I do encourage them to do is to try to open up that conversation. And whether that's just with the adult child, so the parent of your grandchild, or whether that's through mediation, if you need professional assistance, most definitely mediation can help. So in mediation, what we try to look at is, again, just like the court would look at, is the best interest of the grandchildren. Usually if the parents have concerns which cause them reasons to deny grandparents time, we can usually talk through those issues and really work them out in mediation.
Now, what if the grandchildren have some resistance and they don't actually want to spend time with the grandparents? What happens then, Stephanie?
Well, mediation to the rescue again. Honestly, we can do so many things in mediation and resolve so many relationship issues to make it positive for the future. So if the parents of your grandchildren are supportive of mediation and supportive of the relationship to continue despite this resistance by the grandchildren, then very often we'll have everyone attend at mediation. So we would have the grandparents, we'd have the grandchildren, and the parents of your grandchildren. And because when people take more of a rights-based approach, things can go south and sour pretty quickly. So what we want to try to do is to seek to understand and really to not only listen, but also to hear what people are saying and to really understand it underlying what's going on for that resistance so that we can repair that relationship.
Now, Stephanie, there's just so much that is involved with not only divorce and separation, as I'm discovering, but specifically when it comes to dealing, as we talked about today, with the grandparents. If people have any questions regarding that, or they're going through this scenario and not sure what to do, what's the best way for them to start, I guess, looking to find the answers as to how they get started?
Sure. Well, to our viewers, if you want to start by having a look at our website, it will give you a really good introduction of what we do and how we do it and the process options that we use. We do a lot of mediation. We also have legal services. So start with the website. You can always call our office as well, 780-875-2234, and our team would be happy to give you more information. And usually the way we start is with a 5-minute phone call with me. That's free of charge, just to get a really quick idea, obviously not an in-depth idea of your situation in 5 minutes, but it'll give us a really good idea of whether we're barking up the right tree and whether I'm the right person to help you and your family resolve your dispute.
All right, Stephanie, well, thank you so much. Always interesting to speak with you, and we'll chat with you again next week.
Well, I'm very pleased to be joined with Canadian country artist Tebe, and we're talking about some new things going on with him, including his new album, as well as his new collaboration with UK artist Una Healy. But we'll talk about the album first here, Tebe. Talk about the success of the album and how it's been so far for you.
It's been great. The response we've gotten from the record has been pretty tremendous. We were 3 singles deep on this album before we actually released the record back in February, I believe. So I think we're coming up on single number 4, which just came out, called Song of the Summer. And I'm excited for that one to see what it's going to do.
Now, the single from the album Song of the Summer, which has a new collab version with Una Healy, like I mentioned at the beginning, talk about what she brings to the single, as well as why that song fit well to be the one that got that remix treatment.
Yeah, I love working with people outside of the country genre. It's very easy to I shouldn't say easy, but it's easier to find a duet partner if they're in the same genre as you. And I'd been a fan of Una for a long time. I used to live in London back in 2012, and Una was in a massive band called The Saturdays, a big girl group over in the UK. So I'd been familiar with her. I'd known her music, and it was just one of those things where we were actually supposed to release this song this time last year, but we couldn't get the timing to work out. And it's kind of better that we did, because I was able to get Una to sing on this song with me for the duet version.
As you're trying to branch out further as a musician, what were some of the challenges that you personally faced when you're building your name internationally?
This is going to help for sure. The cool thing about this particular duet is it's going to introduce us to each other's fan base. Una's got a very strong fan base over there in the UK, and then me in Canada. So it's just a great opportunity for us to kind of meet each other's fans and just keep spreading the word about our individual music as well as the single.
For you, does it still feel surreal in a sense to see a lot of your stuff get that certified gold or certified platinum, whether it's your stuff or stuff you've written for other artists?
No, it's a blessing every time someone decides to take one of my songs and record it. When I write songs, I typically don't try to write them for anything in particular. I just try to write the best song possible. And sometimes it works out for me and sometimes it doesn't. Gord Bamford in the song Dive Bar is a great example of a song that I wrote that it's not a Tebe record. It's really, really traditional country. And I just happened to call up Gord Bamford and see if he liked the song, and he did. So, things like that. I just try to write great songs and they'll find a home, and it never really gets old. But I'm also not one of those people to really rest on my laurels and kind of sit back and watch. I'm always kind of constantly trying to improve and to write more hit songs. So it's nice to watch the songs go up the charts, but I think I should probably take a little bit more time to really bask in the success of them.
When you look at your music as a whole, with this album in particular, how was the process of creating and writing it changed for you over the last couple of years?
We started writing this record probably easily a year and a half ago, probably maybe even 2 years ago now. Because as I said, Song of the Summer was supposed to come out last year. But when I'm making a record, it's just one of those things where I just try to write great music, and I don't really focus on it for myself. I kind of have a general vibe about what I would like to accomplish with the record and what sounds I would like to use and things of that nature. But it's just always just trying to write the best material, and sometimes the songs are for me and sometimes they're not. But I don't really change the process whether I'm writing for myself or somebody else. I really just try to keep it pretty simple and just write something that doesn't suck.
As we get ready to open things up here in Canada, are there any plans for you to do some live shows up here anytime soon?
Yeah, I'm excited. I think we're getting really close. As you can see, I'm in here in Nashville, and things are pretty much open up down here. There's a lot of shows happening, and everyone is excited about live music being back. So I feel that Canada is going to be following suit very soon, and we are working on a tour. I'm going to be going out on tour. It looks like February and March of 2022. I'm excited about it. It's been well over 16 months since I've played a show, and to be able to go across Canada and play the new music for people. I haven't seen fans in so long, but I've been able to release music and still have some hit songs. So it's exciting for me to get to play those songs live for the fans for the first time on this upcoming tour.
Tebe, I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us. Tebe's new album, The Good Ones, is out now, as well as his collaboration version of Song of the Summer with Una Healy is out now wherever you get your music. Tebe, thanks very much for joining us.
Awesome. Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time, man.
Thank you for joining us on Primetime Local News. Have a great rest of your night.